So the Influx Waver and the Terra Blade, both very, very good melee weapons that have had some big debates in the past over which one was better. And the Influx Waver unfortunately won, but it is kind of expected. It is post-Golem, and the Terra Blade is post-Plantera. But the Terra Blade got nerfed in 1.4.4, and it's really hard to say which one is better, so I'm here to do a comparison against Duke Fishon. It's a fast boss with high health, that both of these weapons are around the same progression point in. So, let's just go. So in terms of setup, I'm using Solar Flare Armor, Warrior Emblem, the Destroyer Emblem, Celestial Starboard, Celestial Shell, the Mechanical Glove, the Fire Gauntlet, and Terra Spark Boots. Everything is reforged to Menacing, besides the Terra Spark Boots, which are reforged to Warding, because it's too expensive to reforge them anymore. Now, for the first test, I'm going to be using the Terra Blade, just because I think it's just fitting. Now, already, you can sort of see just how easy it counters the bubbles. Although, you can, there is a really good thing about that with the Influx Waver that I would like to share later. Now, the Terra Blade has a bit of a sweet spot where it does maximum damage, and it's about where the end of its range is, because when the projectiles, of course, they slow down as they go, and when they slow down, they sort of group together, and that's where it does the most damage. So it's good to keep it in that sort of area. Although, of course, the range isn't great, and it's really hard to keep a boss like Duke Fishon in that area. But every once in a while you can, and it is very nice to have something like that. And especially when it's like going into its second phase is a good place to have that. Although, since it did get buffs in 1.4.4, I think the Terra Blade might struggle a bit more on this boss, but I don't know. Again, well, I guess not again. You can make optimal setups for both of these weapons, and this is not an optimal Terra Blade setup. This is just like a regular melee setup. Although if you wanted to make an optimal Terra Blade setup, you could make the Terra Blade like almost 15 times better than it's doing now. You could absolutely pulverize Duke Fishon in a matter of maybe 20 seconds. Although I'm just using a standard melee setup that's just kind of normal. Just a normal, standard melee setup. It's nothing too flashy, it's nothing too amazing, it's just a standard melee setup. And so, of course, I think the setup does lean a bit in the Influx Waver's direction, although I think if one is very obviously better than the other, I think that will show. Now, it's time for the Influx Waver. Now, it's going to be the same thing, although you can kind of see it's nighttime, although it was nighttime for a duration of the Terra Blade one, and it actually doesn't increase the damage by that much. I think it'll be fine. Just take it with a little grain of salt. I'll just cut off, like, maybe 5 seconds off the end of it. I'll just cut off maybe 10 seconds of the end time, just so we can compensate for that, werewolf difference. So, first of all, the Influx Waver. And first of all, it's sort of already, I don't know why, it feels faster. It definitely feels much faster. I don't know why, though. Now, of course, with the bubbles thing that I was talking about, if you look, next time it does the bubbles attack, look at when it does it. And when you hit the bubbles, it still attacks the boss. The extra swords still attack the boss. And it just makes it so much easier to fight him, because even when you're attacking the Sharkrons and the bubbles and such, it still attacks Duke Fishon. It just makes the fight so much easier. Also, a lot of people think that the new Terra Blade is much better when they don't even know how to test it correctly, because the Influx Waver has a specific way of how it's meant to be used, same with the old Terra Blade, and many people don't really get that. Of course, I'm not saying that the new Terra Blade is better or the Influx Waver is better. I'm just saying that a lot of other people test the Influx Waver wrong. I think the Influx Waver does get a lot of salt just because people don't use it right. You want to always be moving away from the enemy, not up and down from the enemy. Always be moving away from it, because then the blades will go backwards and hit them. Just remember that. You never want to be going towards the enemy or up and down the enemy. Or I guess towards the enemy would still work. Just make sure you're not going up and down the enemy, because many people think that the Influx Waver is worse just because you can't do that with the Influx Waver. Now, the times are on screen. Oh, well, speaking of Martian Madness, well, there you go. Those are the results. The overview was on screen, and let's go. And I guess, yeah, I'll see you later.